Good morning. It's May the 30th and we're in the second week of relevage, which is we're putting the cables together to make the roots look nice and tidy like this. Okay, on this vine we got one for the feet and one for the top. Okay, and this root here has been relevaged with the two. The cables have been tied together, so as you can see all the branches have been held nicely together. And if we move further along, we can see here that the feet have been done but not the tops. You see the cables are stretched apart there. And then if we go further along, there you go, that's what it looks like when the feet and the tops are not done. Messy. So there you go, relevage. This is Tuscany, which is an expansion for Viticulture. And as you can see, both these boxes are the same size, and this one slightly heavier than the other. It's an expansion, but it's not like your regular expansions, say Carcassonne, where you have 2 or 3 expansions and you can use whatever ones you want. This hat is a legacy style expansion. It says it contains 12, but actually there's only 11 in there, because the 12th expansion, so to speak, is a solo variant. So if you want to play the game on your own, like I do and I have quite a lot of times, you can do. And each expansion, the legacy style, is obviously referring to the Risk legacy, where what will happen is one player will choose the event and that will affect the game next time you play it and the next time you play it. This is pretty much the same. It's like having a house and then you decide that you're going to convert the loft into a bedroom, and then the next time you play in that house you're going to build a conservatory on the side, and then the next time you play in the house you're going to build a patio, and then the next time you play in that house you're going to add an outside toilet. That's how this game works. It just adds an extra expansion every time there's a winner of the previous game. They will choose what expansion to add, and then it stays in the game. And then the next player that wins that game will choose which expansion to add. Now, before I get too far, let's have a look at the 11 expansions that's come in this game and what they add to the game. The Tier 1 Mamas and Papas are basically 2 decks of cards which are your mamas and your papas. And you take one of these at random and they will tell you what your mum and your dad leave for you in their land. And this basically just changes the player's startup. So not all players are starting with the same Pinot card, 3 money, 3 workers. So in this case, Mama Margaret would leave me 2 normal workers. She'd leave me a summer visitor, a wine order, and a winter visitor card, which is different from maybe someone else who would have 2 workers, a vine card, and 2 orders, or 2 workers, 2 vine cards, and a wine order card. And then the papas are normally about the money, so you'll have 4 money and the grande worker, and then you can choose between having a medium-sized seller or 3 money. And here you can have the choice between an extra worker or 3 money. And these little things just add a little bit to the starting game to make the game different, so everyone has a different approach to how they're going to start the game, which I find is a very nice touch. Next up on Tier 1 is these property tiles. Now, what do these do? Ooh, interesting. Well, you know your player board at the beginning of the game. You have your 3 fields. And what these do is they basically give you prices and values for your 3 fields. So you can actually sell these 3 fields, which is always a bonus thing to get your money rolling at the beginning of a game. So, for example, you'll see that I'm taking my time a bit. It's because there is a misprint with my copy. Hopefully with future copies there won't be a misprint. Basically, when you sell this for 5 money, to buy it back you'll have to pay 7 money. and that's just a misprint. It should say 5 money to buy this one back. So basically on your turn you can use one of the new action spaces, which is to flip a tile. So I could sell that for 5, which means I can't plant anything on it. But I will instantly get 5 money, which I can use however I wish to use it. And then if I want to buy this back because I want to plant some more vines, I just pay the 5 money and I get it back, and then I can start planting. A nice addition, an easy way to get money at the beginning of the game, as I said, if you want to buy lots of, if you want to extend your cave or buy lots of workers. A very subtle addition in the Tier 1 expansions is the Advanced Visitors. Now these are just 2 small decks of cards which go in your winter and your summer, and you just shuffle these in. But these are great cards to the game. So for instance, the Professor was always a good one because you can pay 2 for a worker and you get them for the next round, which is great. But with this Advanced Professor, you also got the choice of just gaining 2 points if you have the total of 6 workers already. So again, these cards are just fantastic. They give you 2 choices of things to do. Now remember that broker I was telling you about, which is useless at the beginning of the game because he just gives you points for money. Well, you can get money for points now with him, so it's just up and up. A great addition and a very easy addition to add in on the Tier 1 expansions. And the 4th Tier 1 expansion is the Patrons. There goes my French. Anyway, these are nice cards. They're all the same on one side, and all you have to do is to make them a wine level 5 of any sort that you want, and you'll gain 3 points. But once you've done that, you'll activate their secret mission that they have. Okay, so for this, at the end of the game, if you're the player with the fewest structures, you'll gain these 2 additional points. So it's a secret mission that you have to do. You'll know it beforehand. When you draw the card, you'll look at the secret mission and go, okay, yeah, that's my secret mission. I have to have at least 5 total planted vine cards, and I will get 2 points. But first, you will need to give this guy a level 5 wine of any sort and get 3 points. And if you do that, and you do that, you get those 2 bonus points at the end of the game. Before I move on to the Tier 2 expansions, I just want to point out that you don't have to unlock these in any particular order. You can unlock them in any order that you wish. So you wish to do the extended land, you can do that, or if you want to do the patrons first. But once all 4 of these expansions have been unlocked, you can then start unlocking the Tier 2. I keep wanting to say level 2, but it's Tier 2. And I keep saying unlocking when it should be uncorking. More visitors arrive in Tier 2. These visitors are quite powerful and break the rules. Like this organizer here. Midway through the game, when you use her, you can move your cockerel into another row on the wake-up track and then gain the bonus instantly. So that is a fantastic break-the-rule power. And then you have this planner, which lets you place a worker into a future season. So if you're in the summer and you definitely want to fill an order, you can just place your worker directly on the fill order space in winter, and then when winter comes you directly sell your wine, which is great. Also the winter cards, they break the rules as well. You have this Reaper, which kind of lets you harvest 3 fields, and if you harvest 3 fields you gain 2 points. There are some of these cards as well which interact with other players. So if one player does, you can harvest a field, and you can ask the other players if they wish to harvest the field, and if they do, you get extra victory point, which is gives you this interaction in the game. And then we come to the pièce de la résistance in Tier 2, which is the extended board. It's bigger. You've got the year. It's broken into its 4 seasons completely differently. You can place workers in spring, summer, autumn and winter. And some of these actions are special. You've got, for example, you can do tour here and a tour here. You can build a structure here and build a structure here. You can also sell your wine, which you couldn't do with the original board, and you get points, victory points, for just selling a wine. You have this, place and move stars. What's this? This is to do with the regional zone. Let's zoom in a bit. This is a bit like an area control. What you can do is when you place one of your stars, you place it in one of the regions, you instantly gain the bonus. So like here, you would gain 2 money. Or if you need an extra vine card, you can go here and get a vine card. At the end of the game, whoever's got the most stars in each region will get this bonus victory point. So there's a way of getting more points, and that's why there's an elongation on the victory point track. And then if we move up here to the wake up positions, this has changed slightly as well. You basically, whatever position you get determines what bonuses you get, but you only get the bonus when we go into that time of year. So at spring, nobody gets a bonus. But when everyone moves into summer, depending on what position you want to wake up on, you will get your bonus and you will pick up your vine card, or you will get your 1 point victory. Or you'll get this over here in the winter, which is you age your grapes. So the grapes that you've got just sitting in the pressoir, in your crush pad, will age 2 times that year. And this is the great thing as well. Once you've passed and you've played all your workers, you immediately retrieve all your workers. You age your grapes, you discard your hand down to 7, you collect your residual payment from the top here, whatever it is, and then you choose the wake up position of the next year. So if you use all your workers first, you get to choose. You're the first player who gets to choose which starting position you start on. Another wonderful thing about this is, he can't remember all of a sudden. I remember now. Yes, when you take your workers off, it opens up spaces for other players. So if you take all your workers off in the winter and you've got your worker on fill in order, it opens it up for someone else to fill an order. Another tier 2 is the special workers. What you get is this deck of cards and all these meeple to play with, but you won't get to play with all of them. You basically take 2 of these cards out. There's some black ones as well, so you can write your own special powers on. But you take 2 cards out randomly and then you put these into play, and these can be purchased, okay, much like a normal worker, but they cost 1 extra. So if you're hiring a worker, it normally costs you 4, but if you wanted to hire this Politico, it would cost you 5, and he has a special power. So when you place this Politico on a bonus space action on the board, after you take the action, you can gain the bonus and then pay 1 money to get the bonus again. A nice little power. You have the Traveller here. When you place the Traveller on an open action space in a previous season, regardless of the action space available based on player's count, immediately take the action. So it goes backwards in time, so you can play into a previous season, as the card says. And you have all these lovely wooden meeple, beautifully sculpted with a little bit of colouring on them to distinguish, and it's just a lovely addition. You got worker power, not spice power, girl power, but in the game you can still only have a maximum of 6 workers. You can't exceed that limit. So 2 of your workers could be special workers, the other 4 would be your grande, and 3 other normal workers. And the 4th tier 2 expansion is structures, which is this little board which gets added to the side of your player mat, and this deck of cards. And this deck of cards has structures that you can attach to your property. You can only build 2 at maximum, but you can destroy one by placing a worker here, and you can remove the card and the power. And they all have different types of powers. So like this storehouse here, at the end, when you build it, you get the bonus point at the bottom there, 1 point. And then at the end of every year, you get to age all your wine by 1, which is great. You have a barn here. Again, you got the value at the top there, it tells you how much it is to build it. And you get 1 victory point when you build it, which is great. But this has a power special. It says at the end of each summer, you may discard 2 cards of any type to gain 1 point. Or you have this shop. Build it for 5, get 1 victory point, and then you can place a worker on the worker space there, and you can then place a star, and you can fill an order. What a great card. And there are lots of these cards, and they all do different things. But that's them 3 main types. You got types where you put workers on, you got types which regenerate something at the end of the year, and then you got types which just give you a special power. Here's a tier 3 arboriculture, which arb means trees, and you get this deck of cards which are tree cards in 3 types. You got apple trees, you have tomato vines, and you have olive trees. you also get this extended piece of the board here, which gives you a few other worker spaces and this other warehouse here. Now, what you can be doing, every time you can draw a vine card. Instead, you can draw one of the arbor cards, and these will be random. And so you'll either draw the apple, tomato, or olive, and then you can place these in any of your 3 fields. But you're only allowed to place one at a time. And then whenever you harvest that field, you take your grapes as normal. So a level 3 white and a level 3 red there. But you'll also take an apple, and apples go straight into your warehouse. And as you can see, you can just store a maximum of 3. The same for a tomato. What will happen is when you harvest a field with a tomato on it, if you can find a tomato, like so, you will actually put it in this refinery area here. And olives will go into this millstone here. Then what you'll need is a worker to make the tomatoes into tomato sauce. So by placing a worker here and using them as an action, you can turn 1 tomato into 2 tomato sauces, and you can only hold 2 in your warehouse. You can't hold any more, but you can hold as many tomatoes as you wish up at the refinery. The same with the olives. Okay, you'll need a worker to turn 1 of the olive tokens into 1 olive oil. So what does this all do? Wow, what does it do indeed? It basically, you can sell these items to get points. So for example, whenever you sell a wine or you fill an order, you can also sell 1 of your tomato tokens and gain 1 point. Or you can sell your olive oil and get 2 points, but you can only do 1. The other reason this is here is because of the strain on your workers. Your workers are going to be working extra hard, and what will be happening is they'll be losing their morale, which is indicated by this heart sign here. Okay, you start there, but every time you play your grande worker, you have to move him down. And when it gets to the bottom, you will lose 1 victory point, which is not good. So what you can do at the end of the year is you can discard as many of the tokens in your warehouse, however many you want. So if I discard 2, I can mount my heart back up to 2. I can also place a worker here in the leisure zone, which will automatically make it go up 1, but I can't use the grande worker there. Also, if it reaches the top, I can gain a victory point, but once it's there, it just stays as 1 victory point. You have to drop down and then mark back up to get another victory point. This last space here, which you're probably asking about, is a cask, which will increase the value of 1 of your wines. So you can change 1 of your wines and make it go up 1 in value as long as you've got the size of the cellar. This here, tier 3, is a small deck of cards, and this is the Mafia expansion. Basically, there are 9 cards labelled, numbered even, 1 to 9. And these are a present that you need to give to the Mafia boss at the end of the game. And the player who has the highest number, which is a 9 in this case, would get 2 points. And the player with the lowest number would lose 1 victory point. Okay, at the beginning of the game, you'll take 1 of these out without looking at it. You'll shuffle all these cards up and then deal 1 to each player. They then can, whenever they use their grande worker, when they send them off to work, they can also, if they choose, to discard the 1 card they got in their hand and draw a new one from the deck, as long as there is a deck. Obviously this information is kept secret, so nobody knows what number card you got. Oh, I got 9. Okay, you can also use the grande worker. If you go into a space where there's another player's worker, you can swap your card with their card. So they'll know what number you have or had and what number you've got. And at the end of the game, as I said, you're trying to get the highest number card. So it's like a little mini game within the big game of Viticulture. And the final 3rd tier is the Formaggio expansion, which again you add onto your land, and it gives you this other cellar for making cheese. It also gives you a cow in a field, and you can have a maximum of 4 cows each player, and you get them by going to the trade space on the big new super extended board, where you can trade money, victory points, cards or grapes for a cow, which is wonderful. Then what you can do is you can use this worker space here to turn one cow into one type of cheese. Well, you don't actually turn the cow into cheese, but you milk it and make cheese. And you can choose whatever cheese you want. If you want to make a mozzarella, you can. If you want to make a Reggiano, you can. These cheeses will get older with time, like the wine, every year until they go mouldy and go in the bin. But two of the types of cheeses will need a medium-sized cheese cellar grommet to extend their life and give them, you get a lot more points for them basically. So how do you get those points? That's the thing. On the main extended board, you can add a star or move a star on the location on the area control map, but you can also add the stars here. So you can add one here to the inferior and what that will do is that will let you age cheese of one type however you wish. So let's say we had the Reggiano now. We could say, well, we're going to age all the Reggiano by 2, so it all moves up by 2. Or we can say it's not going to age at all and it's going to stay there. So you can choose if it ages no years, 1 year or 2 years. The cheesemonger here will let you sell a cheese for 1 victory point with a wine. And then you have the fromager, which will let you add a cheese whenever you do and fill an order. So you'll get the victory points for the order that you make, and also you get the victory points for the cheese, and they've got numbers in here, so that would be a 3. And I would probably gain a big smack in the chops if I did not mention the solo mode. The solo mode is this wonderful deck of cards here. You can play on 2 different types. You can play on a normal or a hard, and basically all it is a final score. You need to beat the final score of the Ultima player. And what you do is you start at the beginning. You'll start with the base game. So you'll start with, as you can see, the original Viticulture board and the original Viticulture pieces, but you will add one expansion, and that will be the mummers and the puppers. So you'll start with the mummers and puppers, and then you have to beat the automated player. Once you beat the automated player, obviously you add another expansion with the mummers and puppers, and you start again. How does that work? Well, basically you set up these little crystals on each year. Okay, you can only do each year once, so the game plays over 7 years as a solo player. So if I go here on the first year, I take this little crystal, and that means that I've done year 2, well not year 2, but my first year is action 2, which means that I'll get the bonus as normal of drawing a vine card. And then again the next year I take that and I take the money. So you have to kind of work out what's your best strategy here. Is it best to start with the extra worker, or is it best to... It's definitely best not to do this first position. If you fail the game after the first and you don't beat the high score of the Ultima player, you basically start again, but this time you add 2 of these bonus tokens and then you start playing again. Now you say bonus tokens. Well, what do these bonus tokens do? Well, you can use these as resources. What do you mean you can use these as resources? As he says, digging out the pieces. Whenever you go into an action space, you're playing one player, you can only go into the first space. Can you see that? Yes, you can. Which means that you can't get this bonus of a 1 money. So let's say that I did this, and then I go here on my turn. I use one of these to actually use that bonus space, and I take 1 money. And again, you can use it on any of the action spaces to draw extra cards or play extra cards or plant extra plants. Now I'm getting ahead of myself. After you do your wake up track and before you start putting workers on, you go through this deck. Well, you don't go through it, but you turn the first card over, and this tells you what the Ultima player is doing. So this Ultima player, he's going to go into build 1 structure. So I cannot build 1 structure on this turn, but I can do the other 5 actions like plant, sell grapes, give a tour, play a yellow card, or draw a green card. So that will happen every summer and winter with the base game. And then when you get the extended board, obviously the colours will tie in with the colours that are on the extended board. Simple as that. So there you go. Tuscany is a board game expansion that everybody who owns Viticulture should own as well. This expansion makes Viticulture just that so much more better. Once you've played with a couple of the expansions, you won't play the base game on its own again. You'll just kind of brush over it. Maybe you'll use it to teach new people, and especially newbies into our hobby, how to play the game, because this game is simple. This game is very easy to teach. It's very straightforward. You have the years, and it's just basically a case of people building up their little empires and getting their engines running. And once you get the engines running, the points start flying up and building up, and before you know it, the game's over. So the game is still relatively short, even with all the expansions. The Mamas and Papas, very good expansion. It gives everyone a bit of variety, not too much. It doesn't change the game a lot. It does sometimes give some people, I feel some of them are a bit advantageous to the players sometimes, like, as I keep saying, the cottage. If you get the cottage, you're drawing 2 cards every autumn, and that builds up over time, and you'll have a big handful of cards, and some of those visitor cards will say discard 4 visitor cards and get 2 points, and things like that. And so they're very good to have. The advanced visitors and the new visitors are very good cards. I would suggest, I haven't tried it yet, but I would suggest throwing out the base game cards once you start opening up the expansions and just using these cards, because they're a lot more rounded, a lot more useful either at the beginning of the game and at the end of the game, depending on where you are, unlike the cards in the base game where they're either good at the beginning or good at the end, and not vice versa. So that does mitigate a lot of the luck of the draw problems that I have with Viticulture. It just keeps it down to a bare minimum. As you can see, the box is jam-packed and you can barely just fit the lid on. The lid fits on just about with the manuals and stuff on top. But you'll see there's some extra playing mats, and there's a new board, and then you have all the components sorted into sections like so. You've got space for metal coins if you upgrade to your metal coins, and then you've got all the cards broken down into sections like so. The Patreon cards are nice. There's not enough powers on them. As you add more and more expansions, you kind of neglect them. They're not important. You just don't feel that you need to do them. Especially there's one which says if you have fewer workers than the other players, you will get 2 victory points, and I played it and I tried deliberately to keep my number of workers below my opponents, and I lost miserably by a big 15-point margin because I didn't have that extra worker for all the time that we played, and it infuriated me, and I thought, well, was it really worth losing 2 points over that? So that card is a bit, but all the other ones are not too bad, having lots of vines or having a variety of vines or things like that. The other expansions, the board, the bigger extended board is bonus. It is brilliant. I love it. There's lots of actions to choose, there's lots of variety, there's lots of different ways that you can change your strategy, and it does open up the strategy tenfold in a way, having all those different actions that you can do, but it can be a bit overwhelming for newbies. So as I say, start with the base. I feel like I'm missing out on an expansion, but let's carry on with the second tier ones. I've done. Talking of cards, these bigger cards in my set, they are slightly like this. They curled up after taking the cellophane on. This may bug you or it may not bug you. It's not as annoying as you'd think. So take that for what it is. Well, I'm gonna need the reference sheet. Haha. Okay, Mamas and Papas. Special workers. Yes, you draw 2 cards at random and they are special workers. This is a great little expansion. It's early days. I haven't played it enough, and I haven't played with all of the different powers. But some of them are really useful, where you can put a worker down on a future season and then take that action. You basically reserve that action before the other players, or you have a worker that when you put them on that space, if anyone else goes on that space, they have to pay you 1 money to use that action, which is wonderful. We have the expendable, the structures. That was the other tier 2 one that was missing. The structures deck is lovely, but I feel it doesn't get used enough. It's really hard to build structures and get the benefits from them. There's been many a game I've played and you build a structure and you probably get to use it once or twice throughout the whole game, so you don't really get to the good feel. I kind of wish that every player could start with a different structure, a very low level structure, much like the Mamas and Papas, so that gives them something different, so it gives them a different advantage on the other players, and also kind of construct a route to win the game with. Special workers, new visitors, extended board, structures. Oh, that's level 2. Yeah, I didn't miss any out then. Oh, the properties, level 1. Yes, nice. I like it. It's a good way to get money at the beginning of the game, but you will hamper yourself mid-game if you only got 2 fields and you need to get in. You're hampered by the vines that you draw. That can be a problem, but it is useful. You can use it if you want to, you can use it if you don't want to. That didn't make sense. But anyhow, yes, all good. Now, I will confess, I haven't played any of the tier 3 expansions yet, because I have been unlocking on solo mode, and it's taken me around about 15 games to get up to a tier 3 expansion. And I've also been playing competition with my wife, and again we just about arrived about a tier 3, and everything up to that point is mind-blowing. When you had all the tier 1s, which are very light, and then all the tier 2s, which become quite heavy and thinky, I am now a bit reserved about playing the game with one tier 3 on top, because of the level of, I was going to say nivell, which is French, but the level of concentration that you have to put into this game is overwhelming. Not outstanding, overwhelming. You will have to scratch your head a lot, and it slows the game down considerably. Most of these expansions you'll fly through. They'll add 10 minutes, 15 minutes to the game, because you know how to play the game, and adding a new element doesn't change the game too much, apart from the extended board, which does slow the game down a tad. But I've got to the point where all the level 2, tier 2 things have been uncorked, and the game is great. I am worried about it being overkill now with the tier 3. Which is a shame. There's the rule book. And how could I forget? There's one deck of cards which says open at your own risk. I'm not going to show you, but it's a deck of structure cards which you can use after tier 3 to add a bit of spice up your life. Why am I keep quoting Spice Girls? Oh dear, what's wrong with me? It's a nice little secret bonus into the game. Enjoy. Now, unlocking, there are some different suggestions on the back of the book of how you should unlock. There's one which is the winner will choose which expansion to unlock, whereas the loser would choose one expansion to be thrown out. So you're constantly just playing around with different types of game, it feels like. And then there's another one which is done by, it's been suggested by Richard Ham, or Raldo's Run-Throughs. He's done a kind of very definite kind of Risk Legacy style one, where the Mamas and Papas will only be unlocked if the game ends in a tie-break, or the properties will be unlocked if the winner has planted just vines in one of his fields. So that's a very different way of unlocking, but I would suggest playing around, because there's lots and lots and lots of different nice things about the game. As I've explained in the Viticulture review, the player boards are reversible, so you've got this kind of neutral side with no text on it, and also the board game for the original Viticulture has a double side with no text on it, which is good for if you're playing in another country with other languages. Like for me, I have French as my second language, and so you can go to the Stegmaier site and you can download the rules and the extensions for the cards in whatever language you need, French, Italian and others, and then you just buy some card sleeves to sleeve them in. The only thing is, with the Tuscany, the new extended board is double-sided, but it has stuff on both sides. It has text on both sides, so it's not as versatile. Also, the Formaggio and the Viticulture, they're both on the same card, so they do have the text on, which is not too much of a problem if you're playing in another language. For me, Tuscany expands Viticulture beautifully, but it does expand it maybe a bit too much for some people, as I feel going into the third tier territory. It's probably a bit too overcomplicated, and maybe some of the other stuff needs to come out just to make it a bit more so your brain doesn't explode, so to say. The cards, their luck is mitigated quite a bit by the new visitor cards. As I said, I'd chuck out the base set cards and it'd be alright. I'm a bit disappointed with the structure cards. They're a nice idea, but I can never seem to get them into play. And when I do get them into play, I can only use them like once throughout the whole game, and before you know it, the game is over. It is very hard. It can be very hard to catch up. You need to be aware of what you're doing, and you need to be aware of what your opponents are doing at the same time, because they can rush ahead. If their engine starts running a bit faster than yours, you need to find another way to get points quickly. So you need to be aware of what they're doing as well as what you're doing. You can't just bury yourself into your player mat, as I have done in the past and lost by great amounts of points. The production quality is brilliant, apart from the little printing error. Get the coins if you go to get the extra coins, because they just makes the game a bit more elegant, a bit more fun while you're waiting your turn. There's not a lot of waiting around as people are placing their meeples on. And the solo variant is brilliant. I love playing the solo, but the thing is, it's got to a point where I am now starting to scream and shout at the deck of cards for blocking all the spots that I want to take that year, and I've had to stop playing because I just can't. I just can't beat the guy at the moment. I'm on the fourth. Where is it? That's not it. Ah, where is it? I've lost it. I'll have to start again. Yeah, I unlocked the workers on my 14th game, and I'm now on my 17th game, and I still haven't beaten the Ultima. After I've beaten him, I will unlock the third tier, and then I'll choose one of those. But it is just an addictable, fun game. It's quite quick to set up because everything's in its place. The boxes hold everything brilliantly. I can't praise this game enough. It's just that luck of the draw, which bugs this game down. That's the only minuscule thing which makes Tuscany and Viticulture annoying. But if you love the theme, if you love worker placement, this is your game.
Why Dylan has no shame, so I play solo.